seems that everywhere you go these days, you hear the word consumer. Just about everyone wants to be a good consumer, but just what constitutes a good consumer? A consumer is one who acquires goods or services, or, in short, a buyer. And let's face it, we all buy something at one time or another. A good consumer is a person who finds the highest quality product at the best price. In general, it's better to pay just a little more to get a product that is well made and will last, rather than paying less for something that's going to fall apart. But as with every other rule in the world, there are sometimes exceptions to this one too. Today we're going to visit a grocery store to learn how to buy wisely. Everyone has to go to the grocery store occasionally, even the guys. Mom's not always going to be there to buy the groceries, boys. Before we take shopping list in hand and head out, let's take care of a little unfinished business in the form of the cliffhanger from last week. Last week's cliffhanger dealt with abbreviations of the states. Let's see how well you did. The first question was about the state that always seemed to be in poor health. That's Illinois, of course, because its abbreviation is ILL. Which state is a fond parent? It's Pennsylvania, because its abbreviation is PAW. The state that is a doctor is Maryland. The abbreviation for Maryland is MD. And finally, the state that never forgets itself is Maine, because its abbreviation is ME. How'd you do with these? It should have been pretty easy. Maybe you even made up some of these questions on your own. If you did, I'd like to hear about them. You can send them to me at Jump in care of ITV at Phillips High School. Now, before we go to the grocery store, let's talk about some terms for a minute. One term that is sometimes associated with grocery stores is unit pricing. This is a term that refers to the cost per ounce of an item. For example, if a 16-ounce jar of grape jelly costs 99 cents, its unit price is roughly 6 cents an ounce. I got that price by using this little formula. I divided the cost of the item, in this case the jar of jelly, by the number of ounces in that jar. That way, I can compare its price to other jars of grape jelly to see which one is the most or least expensive and use that to determine the best buy. But what happens if an item isn't weighed by the ounce? Suppose it's weighed by the pound instead, like a 5-pound sack of sugar. Well, then you divide the price by the number of pounds. Let's say that a 5-pound sack of sugar costs $1.50. Divide $1.50 by 5 and you get the price per pound, which is 30 cents. Nothing hard about that. The main thing to remember about unit pricing is that it's only one of the factors to consider when you decide which item to purchase. You also have to take personal taste into consideration. A bargain isn't a bargain if the family refuses to eat it. For example, I happen to be very fond of ketchup, but I am also quite picky about the kind of ketchup that I buy. I like one specific brand. So for me, buying a bottle of ketchup that was cheaper than my usual brand wouldn't be a good buy because I probably wouldn't use it. Learning to be a good consumer isn't all that hard, but it can take some figuring from time to time. So you may find that it's easier for you to be a smart shopper if you take either a calculator or a small pad and pencil along with you when you go to the store. That way, you can be sure that you're getting the best buys possible. Remember the formula for determining the unit price of an item. Divide the price by the number of ounces or pounds to find the price per ounce or pound of the item. Now, if you're ready, let's go shopping. This is the Bruno store in Hoover. Now, this store really fits the term supermarket because you can buy just about anything in the way of a food item in this store. Now, for our little shopping excursion, I've brought along my calculator and a grocery list. A grocery list is a terrific thing to take with you when you go to the grocery store because it can help you from spending too much money, and it can also keep you from buying things that you don't really need. So, always take a grocery list with you when you go to the grocery store and make a deal with yourself. Don't buy anything that's not on that list. You'll save yourself time and money. Something else that can save you money is the use of coupons. Sometimes a coupon can make the difference in helping you decide which item is a better buy. And we'll get to coupons in just a minute. The first thing we're going to do is take a look at the fresh fruits and vegetables. So let's go do that now. Fresh items like these are referred to as produce. Now, produce includes not only fresh fruits and vegetables, but also such things as eggs and the kinds of cheeses that are packaged here in the store. Now, when it comes to fresh produce, you want to look for the freshest food possible. Obviously, you're not going to buy a head of lettuce, for example, that's brown or wilted around the edges. Now, when it comes to buying lettuce or cabbage, what you have to look for is firmness. A head of cabbage is usually pretty firm and also pretty heavy, but a head of lettuce isn't always that way. So what you have to do is give the head of lettuce a little squeeze. The firmer the head of lettuce, the more lettuce you'll get for your money. And the same thing goes for such vegetables as cucumbers, celery, carrots, squash, and other kinds of vegetables. Never, ever buy a soggy cucumber. Yuck! Now, when it comes to certain kinds of vegetables and fruits, you can tell their freshness by looking at their color. Look for nice green bell peppers, and look for cauliflower that's pretty and creamy white. Have you ever paid any attention to the apples in the grocery store? Most stores sell several different varieties of apples, including both red and yellow apples. For example, Bruno sells both Red Delicious apples and Rome Beauty apples that are red. In addition, they also sell apples that come in plastic sacks like these. And generally speaking, the loose apples are the best ones to eat. A lot of people use the apples that come in sacks like this for cooking. Now, let's take a look at another vegetable that comes in a sack. Everyone has seen potatoes packaged this way. Generally speaking, potatoes come in 5-pound and 10-pound sacks. Now, a 5-pound sack of potatoes sells for $1.69, while a 10-pound sack sells for $2.49. Which one's the better buy? Well, that depends on a couple of things. First of all, you have to determine whether your family will eat 10 pounds of potatoes in a fairly short length of time. If they will, then the 10-pound sack of potatoes is the best buy. Now, I could tell that simply by looking at the price. The price of 2 sacks that weighed 5 pounds each would cost me $3.38. But for only 80 cents more than the price of one 5-pound sack, I can get double the weight of the potatoes. So therefore, the 10-pound sack would be the best buy. Now, you may be wondering why I didn't choose one of these sacks. It's because these are red potatoes, while these are Idaho potatoes. Generally speaking, the Idaho potatoes are more versatile, so I chose these. Now, let's have a look at the next item on my grocery list. The next item on my list is the kind of fruit drinks that come in paper cartons. Now, these are especially good for sticking into a lunchbox. As you can see, Bruno sells several different varieties of these fruit drinks, and I do want to get the best buy for my money. But there is another factor involved here. This time, I have a couple of coupons. A coupon is a slip of paper issued by a product's manufacturer, which allows a consumer to deduct a certain amount of money from the store's regular price for that item. But a coupon may only be used for the product which is named on the coupon. A coupon may not be used for a brand other than the one which appears on the face of the coupon. When you get to the checkout counter, give your coupons to the cashier and she'll deduct the specified amount from your total bill. Now, I'm in a little bit of a quandary. I have 2 coupons, one for Hawaiian Punch and one for cran apple juice. As it happens, I like both of these drinks equally well. Now, the Hawaiian Punch sells for 77 cents for 3 containers, but I have a 20-cent coupon which will make the final cost of the Hawaiian Punch 57 cents. The cran apple juice sells for $1.04 for 3 containers, but I have a 15-cent coupon that will make the final cost of the cran apple juice 89 cents. Now, how do these two compare in quantity? Well, The crown apple juice appears to contain more drink, but that's just the way it's packaged. If you check the labels, you'll see that both of these contain the same amount of liquid. So, the Hawaiian Punch for 57 cents is going to be the better buy. And that proves a point. You always need to check the labels when you're doing comparison shopping. Now, let's have a look at an alternative form of shopping. These products put a whole different light on grocery shopping. Let's have a look at them. To begin with, do you notice something different about these items right away? How does their packaging compare to the packaging of the other items that we've seen in the store? It doesn't compare at all, does it? These items are packaged in plain white boxes that have plain black lettering. Their packaging isn't bright and appealing like the other items we've seen in the store. There's a special name for these items. They're called generics. A generic is an item that is commonly available and not protected by a trademark. When that term is used to refer to grocery items, it means something that is very basic and is plainly packaged. Now, because they're plainly packaged, they're going to cost you less than a name brand product. The reason for that is that the producers who make name brand products usually spend a good amount on their packaging, so of course they're going to have to cost more. Since these are plainly packaged, they are less expensive. And when it comes to buying a generic, it's simply a matter of cost and personal preference. For example, this name brand of spaghetti will cost you 69 cents for 1 pound, but the generic spaghetti will cost you only 67 cents for 2 pounds. Now, unless you happen to be really picky about a particular brand of spaghetti, the generic spaghetti would be a better buy, and it would save you a hefty chunk of change. After all, you could get 2 pounds of spaghetti for less than what it would cost you to buy 1 pound of the name brand. Now let's look at some other items that are generic as compared to their counterparts in brand name products. Let's start with this onion soup mix. This onion soup mix sells for 79 cents. Its generic counterpart sells for 59 cents, and both boxes contain the same amount of soup. This brand name foil sells for 61 cents for 25 square feet, while the generic brand sells for only 49 cents for 25 square feet. Now, when it comes to pudding, the Jell-O Instant Pudding sells for 38 cents for a box this size. The Royal Instant Pudding will cost you 34 cents for a box that size, but the generic Instant Pudding sells at 3 boxes for 88 cents, or roughly 29 cents a box. That's quite a difference. Are you beginning to get the idea now? I thought you were. Let's go have a look at the meat department. Now, when it comes to buying meat, a consumer must consider several different factors. First of all, why do we buy meat in the first place? Well, meat is a good source of protein. Second, what kind of meat you buy depends on your budget and your personal preference. Third, what kind of meat you buy also depends on what you're going to do with it. And finally, some kinds of meats are lower in fat and calories than other kinds. So, it all depends on what you want. Fish is a good example of a type of meat. Now, suppose that you were going to buy some fish. The flounder sells for $3.99 a pound, but the cod sells for only $3.19 a pound. If you were just looking for fish and you liked cod as well as you liked flounder, then the cod would be the best buy. Now, you can tell if the fish is fresh by smelling it. And if you're going to buy a good bit of fish, you might want to check with your butcher and see what days he gets in his shipments of fresh fish from the coast. If you're dealing with a big store like Bruno's, I think you'll find that shipments of fresh fish come in daily. Now, let's have a look at the beef. When it comes to beef, you can tell what's freshest by the color. The fresh beef will be a bright dark red in color, like this beef is. Now, which cut do you buy? Well, that really depends on how you're planning to serve it. For example, ground sirloin will cost you $1.98 a pound, while ground beef will only cost you $1.49 a pound. Now, which one's the better buy? Well, ground sirloin is lower in fat and in calories. But if that's not a burning concern with you, or else your budget won't stretch to allow you to buy the ground sirloin, then ground beef would be the better buy. A sirloin tip roast will cost you less than a T-bone steak or a filet mignon. And did you notice that the pork chops for $2.98 a pound are cheaper than the lamb chops for $5.98 a pound? The reason for that is that pork is easier to get than lamb. And when something's more difficult to get, it's always more expensive. And then there's chicken. Chicken usually comes packaged in pre-wrapped packages like this. And usually it's packaged according to the chicken parts, such as chicken breast, chicken wings, chicken legs, or chicken thighs. You can also get something called a cut-up fryer or a whole fryer, and that's just chicken parts. Now, sometimes a butcher will feature chicken that's had its skin removed or its bones removed. And when he does, you know that it's going to be more expensive because when he removes the skin and the bones, that's done for the convenience of the consumer, and that's always more expensive. Now, let's have a look at the dairy case. Let's have a look at the prices on whole milk. Brand name whole milk, such as Sealtest or Barber's, will cost you $2.19 a gallon. But in this case, the store brand really is the best buy. Now, milk is one of those items that must meet specific standards for purity. So, which milk a consumer buys is really a matter of personal preference. Now, in this case, the best buy is the store's brand of whole milk for $2.09 for a gallon. That's a 10-cent savings over the cost of the brand names. Now, let's go have a look at some cheeses. Cheese, my favorite thing. Let's look at the prices on some American cheese slices. Now, all of these packages will be 12 ounces of cheese. The first brand is Kraft Singles, and they sell for $1.55. Gee, that's an awful lot for cheese. The second brand is Staff brand cheese, and it's only $1.29 for 12 ounces of cheese. So obviously the Staff brand is going to be your better buy. Now, before we go away from the dairy counter, let's take a look at one last dairy item, and that is corn oil margarine. Now, as usual, you're going to find that the store brand of corn oil margarine is going to be much less expensive than the national brands. Here we have 3 brands of corn oil margarine. The Fleischmann sells for $1.09 a pound, the Mazola sells for 98 cents a pound, but the Staff brand sells for only 63 cents a pound. Now, how much of a savings will it be if you buy the Staff brand instead of, say, the Mazola brand? That's easy. Subtract 63 cents from 98 cents. That's a whopping 35 cents difference in the price of those 2 corn oil margarines. Now, I think we've covered just about everything on my grocery list, so we're ready to head to the checkout counter and get on back to the studio for cliffhangers. See you there. This week's cliffhanger has to do with food, as you probably suspected that it would. And it's also short and sweet. How many eggs can a man eat on an empty stomach? And by the way, how those eggs are prepared makes absolutely no difference whatsoever. Think about that one, and we'll see you next time on Jump.